This video is for the scientific notation calculator help page and the scientific notation foldable. So at the bottom there it says circle the numbers that have a negative exponent on the 10 when represented in scientific notation. So remember to change to scientific notation. We want the decimal to the right of the first whole number. So the decimal here, we would move one spot. And so this would become 3.412. Then you add a times 10, and I moved it one spot to the right, so my exponent would be a negative 1. In 830, the decimal is right there. So we have to move it two spots to the left. So now I have 8.3. Then you add your times 10, and since I moved it to the left, my exponent is a positive 2. So in 0.054, I move it two spots to the right, so I have 5.4 times 10 to the negative 2. With a number that is 1 through 9, there's no decimal to move because it's already where it needs to be. It's already to the right of the whole number. So this would write as 4 times 10 to the 0. 10 to the 0 will give you a 1, so 4 times 1 gives you 1 again. And then finally, 1,240 and 4,300. So we'd move the decimal 1, 2, 3 places to the left. So you would get 1.240, and then you go ahead and you write the rest of your numbers, 4, 3, and then times 10, and I moved it 3 places to the left, so it would be times 10 to the third. So my negative exponents here would be this one and this one. All right, the next one says circle the numbers that have a positive exponent on the 10. So 3.412, the decimal is already where I want it. So I just rewrite the number and add times 10 to 0. In 0.0083, I have to move it 1, 2, 3 places. So now I have 8.3 times 10, and I moved it 3 places to the right. So that's a negative 3. In 54, the decimal is right behind the 4. So you'd move it one spot to the left, and you would get 5.4 times 10 to the positive 1. Again, 7, the decimal's already where we need it, so we just write the 7 and then tack on times 10 to the 0. And then finally, when we have big numbers like this, 1,240,000. So we're going to move the decimal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1.24 times 10 to the 6. So my positive exponents here are 5.4 times 10 to the first and 1,240,000. Now it says, is it possible for a number written in scientific notation to have 0 as the power of 10? Explain your answer. So yes, we've already seen that in our two examples up here that it is possible. So yes, and so it's possible when the number before the decimal is already 1 to 9. All right, and finally, we're going to list the ones that are in scientific notation form and the ones that are not. So A, this is not written in scientific notation. B, we've got this times 10 to the 5th, so this one is in scientific notation. So C, we've got the exponent, the times 10 to the 2nd, but if you notice here, the decimal is not in the right place. That decimal should be between the 2 and the 8, so C is not in scientific notation. D, my decimal's in the right spot, and I've got the times 10 to the 3rd, so D is in scientific notation. E, the decimal's not in the right place, and I don't have the times 10 to the exponent, so E is not in scientific notation. F, the decimal is in the right spot, and I've got times 10 to the 8th, so F is in decimal, or in scientific notation. G, the decimal is not in the right spot. The decimal would need to be to the right of the 3. So G is not in scientific notation. And then finally H. Again, we've got the times 10 to the 5th, but the decimal's not in the right spot. It should be in between that 6 and that 9. So H is not in scientific notation form. This is the second foldable. So the front of this says scientific notation to standard notation, normal mode. So if it doesn't change, find the decimal and move it. So if it's a negative exponent, you're going to move the decimal to the left. And if it's a positive exponent, you're going to move the decimal to the right. And then you're going to fill in the zeros as you need them. Now, if we're going from standard notation to scientific notation, you want your calculator to be in scientific mode. And so that's what this means here, is when it's in normal mode, when your calculator is in normal mode and when your calculator is in scientific notation mode. So you're going to type the standard number into the home screen, and when you hit enter, it's going to go ahead and convert it. So this big long decimal here would convert to 6.5 times 10 to the negative 8, but your calculator's not going to show that. Your calculator's going to give you 6.5, and then it's going to say E negative 8. So the E equals our times 10, and then either a positive or a negative exponent. All right, number 1 here says write 1.35 times 10 to the 5th in standard form. So we've got to move that decimal 5 spots to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. So that's what we mean by filling in the zeros. If you are making blank spots, you're going to have to fill in zeros in those blank spots. Okay? And if your exponent is a positive, you know that your number is going to be a big number. It's going to be a number bigger than 1. If your exponent is a negative, that means you're talking about a little tiny number. So on number 2, 2.7 times 10 to the negative 3rd, because of that negative, I know this is going to be a really small number. So I'm going to move the decimal 3 spots, 1, 2, 3, to the left. And so these blanks here, I've got to fill in zeros, and then that's where my decimal would be. So this would be 0.0027. And then number 3 says write 67,900,000. So I know this is upside down, so bear with me. So the decimal this is where we need it, between the 6 and the 7. Right now it's here at the end. So it's always a good idea to mark where you need the decimal and where it currently is. So this decimal is going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 places. So my number would be 6.79 times 10 to the 7th. And then finally, I've got this big decimal. So I've already got the decimal here. I need it between the 2 and the 1. So it's going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spots. So this one would be 2.1 times 10 to the negative 6.